support. Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It's 10 minutes past 9 p.m. on Thursday, the 10th of October. It is the second Thursday of the month, and also World Mental Health Day. And I am delighted to bring to you Healthy Minds, Better Lives. It's me, Tom, and I'm joined, as ever, by Hayley and Tammy. Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to see you all.
Evening, everyone.
As I say every single month, we have blinked and here we are again.
It has flown by. It really has.
It really has. So much so that I'm trying to think back to what we discussed last month already. And I'm just trying to think, well, I know that we had Helen on and we also had a bit of a chuckle with each other at the end of the show as well, didn't we? But today we are looking forward to talking about the 6 pillars of well-being. Tammy, you're gonna shed some light on what these pillars are and why they're so important. But for those of you that are watching us live on social media, on Instagram, I can see that we've got Sarah Jane, we've got Helen with us, we've got Casey Blake watching us at the moment. You might notice that we're a little bit coordinated, but it's deliberate. We haven't accidentally turned up to the party wearing the same dress because I don't know if I look good in a dress. But what are we wearing, Tammy?
We are wearing yellow, Hello Yellow for World Mental Health Day. And it's just to show young people that they're not alone with their mental health. We see them. So we are all coordinated today.
We are all coordinated. Hayley, did you have to dig deep into the drawers, or is yellow a colour that comes naturally to you?
I don't have a lot of yellow, but I've had this jumper. So it's a bit of a loyal jumper. I've had it some years now, so I just yanked it out of my cupboard and put it on.
I love that. I've gone for the very discreet yellow bucket hat that you can see on the video if you are watching us on the live stream. It was a bit of a favourite over the summer. Lots of people wanted to get in their hands on a bucket hat. However, I dug about the house looking for something yellow. And then I reminded myself, for those of the benefit on the camera, is that I've always got my yellow belt on. And Hayley, you'll appreciate this. Does that mean that every day is Mental Health Day?
Yes, obviously, that's my favourite thing. Because you know what I feel about these awareness raising days? I love them. I hate them. They are great for raising awareness, but they don't last. That belt for me is definitely my kind of sign that mental health is every day is a mental health day.
Yeah. Tammy, thoughts?
I'm with Hayley. We have our awareness days, we have our campaigns, and it's great to bring topics to the forefront of our minds. But again, they don't go away. They're still here 24/7, 365 days of the year. So keep wearing that yellow belt.
And I suppose that brings us on actually really neatly to what we're going to be spending the vast majority of this evening talking about. Stay tuned right the way to the end, because this month is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And Tammy, you had a great catch up with someone from Breast Cancer Now, which we're going to be playing later on.
Yes, I did. And I don't want to give any spoilers to the kind of interview, but it was very insightful. It's just one of those things that you just think, statistically, it can affect either you as an individual or your family. So, stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that. Yes, please. And the main feature of this evening, in fact, I'm going to give you the fast forward to next month as well. So date for your diary, the second Thursday of November is going to be the 14th of November. We'll have been 1 week on DAB, so ease of access for you to get us whilst you're doing your late night milk run. Hayley, we've got someone joining us.
Yeah, we have. We've got Catherine Rees. She's a homeopath based in Neath. She's going to share a lot more about what homeopathy is, how it works. I love it. I use it myself. I use it with all my children. And she is my homeopath. And it's going to be it's great to move into the holistic side as well as the complementary side, as well as the kind of traditional side we've been talking a lot about.
Yeah, so there's already a lot to cover between now and then. But tonight, wearing my belt every day. Yeah, every day is Yellow Day. It's Mental Health Day. And in order to be aware of that, Hayley, you're bringing to the table the 6 pillars of well-being.
I am. This is my thing. I have to know all my stuff now, though, don't I? So I need to prove myself tonight because this is my topic. No, we set this up a while back talking about the 6 pillars of well-being, and we just wanted we do a lot of talking about different topics. So I think it's good to pull it all together in one show to understand what the show is actually about, really. Because it's not just the mental health. We kind of talk about everything. We have lots of different topics on. We've had menopause. We've had, I'm trying to think what we've had all together. We've had the fitness side and the physical side. We've had loads of different guests on speaking about different topics within that well-being realm. So tonight we're just going to kind of do a brief on all of them.
And so to get us started, we're going to split the show up so it's not just constantly talking about all of these pillars. We're going to dissect them. But give us the list. What are the 6 pillars?
So we have lumped in mental and emotional together because I think they are more closely linked than the others, but they're all related. Then we're going to talk about physical in the same kind of section. Then we're looking at spiritual and social. It might not be what you think it is. And then we're going to talk about financial and professional. So we're looking at sort of the well-being as holistically as we possibly can.
And before I bring this back round to you again, Hayley, Tammy, these 6 pillars, do you use these exact pillars? Do you look at, do you use them in your practice? What's your awareness of the 6 pillars?
I do use them. I won't necessarily use them in a particular order. And when I have clients working with me, but they may present with one of the pillars, but when you drill down, they'll be connected to another one or all of them. So very much interlinked from my experience.
Hayley, your experience, as much as it's nice to have individual columns and pillars that hold up your roof when they're on your foundation, are they interconnected like scaffolding? You've got that cross pole.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think we actually see them like that. I think we see them quite separate. I think we think of mental and emotional. We even think of mental and emotional quite separately because we talk about mental health, but we don't talk about emotional health. We know a lot about physical health and we do more about our physical health than we do our mental and emotional health. But then if you think about it, if your mental and emotional health is suffering, potentially your financial health is suffering, and vice versa. If your financial health is suffering, potentially your mental health and your physical health are suffering.
So it's, as much as Tammy mentioned there, someone might present thinking, oh, this is the one thing that's affecting my mood at the moment. It might just be a symptom of the other things potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we don't want to face what the real problem is. So we pick the easiest to face. And I think quite often physical is one that presents very much so when there's mental and emotional issues. And we are happy or happier or more at ease talking about our physical health than we are our mental and emotional health. In the same way that it can be, I think with society the way it is, financial struggles are sometimes embarrassing to talk about. So we don't talk about them. We may talk about the stress headaches or the tension in our shoulders or the backache, those kind of symptoms that come along with stress, regardless of where the stress is coming from.
So I wonder if you're listening to this, whether you're listening on your smart speaker, your PWR app, or online, or you're watching us. We are live streaming this right now. I wonder what your experiences are with tension and mental and physical well-being. Is it easier to present with other things than with others? I would love to get your feedback on this, and we'll see whether or not we can make this relatable to some individual circumstances without giving advice. We don't want to overstep the mark. But let's have a look at the first 2 of these pillars. So, Hayley, we're going to start off, if I'm not mistaken, with mental and emotional, which is 1. And physical. So give us the headline for mental and emotional.
So this has come up this week for me. So this is really fresh. Okay. And I do this, I have this conversation on repeat quite often. We are currently talking about mental health more and more in the workplace, at home. But my question is, do we truly understand it? because I don't know if you've seen it, and this was on a LinkedIn post this week for me that I saw. Domino's have put they've got this part of their work that they're promoting their well-being and their mental health work, but yet they've gone outside Manchester United's stadium and put a big billboard saying that they are employing, but not Erik ten Hag, is it, the manager?
Oh,
Now, that for me, and the guy, to be fair, the guy who posted on LinkedIn, he was saying the same thing. You're promoting mental health and your work around mental health, and yet that's what you do to somebody. And my response was, it's very similar to the Be Kind movement. We had a lot of people jumping on the Be Kind movement and saying, everybody should be kind and we should all say nice things, but yet they would be bullying on social media without any recognition that they were bullying. And that, to me, the comparison is really similar, that they have no idea of the impact of their behaviour and their actions in that big post.
yeah. Tammy, what's your reflections on hearing that if you haven't seen it yourself?
Haven't seen it, but just hearing it for the first time, it's that contradiction, isn't it? It's that oxymoron of just saying one thing but doing something completely different, and that is so impactful on someone. So again, highlighting it on the show is brilliant for me, for all of us, as well as everyone listening.
Yeah. Now, this isn't Pure Politics. The next Pure Politics show is scheduled to go out, I think, on Christmas Eve. However, I find that a lot of that prevailing attitude that you're talking about, Hayley, very much happens to politicians. And if you're one side of the line to the other, the person that you support is fantastic, but the person that you don't support, you will say in one post, we should all be kind to each other, but haha, you lost your job. How can we as individuals, does that actually strengthen, might be a controversial view now, does that strengthen our well-being? Because emotionally, I'm feeling happy that the person that I didn't support, who has different views to me, is now out of office. Therefore, 2 thumbs up, good riddance, bye-bye. I'm feeling great, therefore I don't care about you. Does that actually help our mental well-being?
I'm going to jump in really quickly. I don't think it does, because now we're talking about that mindset as well. And when we talk about mindset, it's that belief system that we have. And I know that we've spoken about belief systems and values in previous shows. So it does kind of like bring about the question, and I know Hayley's touched on it before, about the difference between your mindset and mental health. We can look at them as two different beasts.
Mm-hmm. Hayley.
Do you know, I think it's really tough being in the public eye like that and being in a position where you have authority over people and you affect their lives. And I don't think you can not expect any consequences when you're making decisions that affect people's lives. I do, however, think we have a decision and a choice as to how we behave and react and respond to things like that. And I think we can get very complacent when we think, particularly celebrities are the same thing as MPs, I think. We get very complacent. We see them a lot on TV, therefore we think we know them, or we have some kind of connection with them. And yet we actually don't know anything about them, and we never know whether they are going through something or not. And don't get me wrong, I've probably said the same in private about somebody in Parliament who maybe lost their job because what their decisions they've made has affected my life. I can't think of any times I have, but I probably have been glad that they've left the position. However, I wouldn't go on social media and I might point out things and say, well, do you understand that what you're saying really has a massive impact? Maybe it feels like you don't, but I wouldn't necessarily be going on, yeah, that's great because he's lost his job, wonderful. And I think it's something that we're not very good at tempering how we react and respond when we're emotionally fueled. And I think this is why mental and emotional is so interconnected, and yet we don't connect them.
Yeah, because Tammy touched on it, this distinction between mindset and overall mental health. So the mindset, going back to that example, is the mindset is either, haha, you've lost your job, or, oh, thank goodness that person is no longer in a position to make decisions that's impacting millions of people, but I wish them all the best in their future endeavors. So is that a kind of good crass example as to what a mindset is?
I think that shows a response and a reaction. And I think it shows, for me, it shows that kind of maturity around your emotions. You can understand that, yes, I'm glad and I'm relieved that they're out. But how you react and respond, I think the mindset thing is more around sort of the actions we take towards things. And I was thinking about this tonight, about athletes, elite athletes are deemed to have a really good mindset. And the mindset will be all about focus, clarity, knowing where they're going, taking the actions to go there. But yet they can still do all those things and still have a poor mental health.
Yeah. And there's been some quite high profile, particularly Premier League footballers, where they take time out and they're suffering from low mood and anxiety and depression and all the pressures that comes along with the other aspects of their life. And yet it's very easy to look at them and think, you're paid millions, you don't need to want for anything, sort your life out, because you have, everything's made for you. Tammy, that's not a fair assessment though, is it?
Well, no, and although the mind and body are often viewed as being separate, mental and physical health are actually really closely related. As you just said, good mental health can positively affect your physical health, and in return, poor mental health can negatively affect the way that you perform. So yeah, they are linked, very much so.
Yeah, we're going to jump into physical in more detail in just a second. I just want to get that distinction then between mental, emotional, mindset, mental health. Where are you drawing those lines, Hayley?
So for me, the mindset is all about, and there's a really fine line, I think, and they are blurred maybe. Mindset is about how you think, what actions you take, the motivation, the focus, and the clarity. So you kind of know your own mind, you know how you think, and you are in control of that. And I think mental health is the state of your mind. So whether you are really well and you're able to be positive, or whether you're unwell and you're unable to focus, you're unable to be sort of in control of how you feel about yourself, how you think. And then you've got the emotions that fuel them all. So for me, my understanding and how I see it and how I work with clients is that the emotions are the foundational level. And yet we don't deal with them at all. We talk about them. We might talk about, oh, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. But we don't really understand them again.
No, and I don't even think people consider the benefits of that positiveness, that positive emotional well-being, and the benefits that we have. And if you kind of, for me, look at how emotional health supports mental health, we do keep them separate and we don't blur them. It does help us to keep calm. It does comfort us when we're upset. It helps us to cope. In day to day, whether there's a loss or a change or fears or uncertainties, to keep good relationships, for example. But it's really important to remember that having good mental health does not mean feeling good all the time.
And
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go on.
As you were talking there now, right? So when I was at the early stages of depression, learning became my coping mechanism. So we're talking about mindset, mental health, okay, and the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm really rock bottom. I'm not doing very well. Well, actually, I wasn't rock bottom at that point. I wasn't doing very well. I wasn't coping with the day very well. I was really sad. I was really frustrated, and I was really disappointed in everything. But yet, I had the mindset to be able to do 4 different courses, work full time, have 4 children, and still sleep 2 to 4 hours a night and still keep going. So my mindset was fixed on learning. So I was still able to learn, but yet I was not coping with life very well.
Is that more alluding towards avoidance to an issue that you were already aware of?
I didn't know it was a coping mechanism. I didn't even know I was a high performer until recently. But I didn't know that I knew I wasn't coping, but I didn't know that learning was my coping mechanism. I structured my week around learning, because I would get up in the morning, I would get myself ready, get the children ready, get them to school, work if or not, depending. I'd pick the children up, get them to their sports and whatever, get home, get them all sorted, fed, bed, and then I would learn. And that was my for 2 years, that was my kind of week. I was using it to get through my day, and it probably was a distraction looking back, but I wasn't aware of it being a distraction at the time. I just thought I was better than myself. I thought I was learning all these things I needed to learn. I was enjoying learning. I've become a lifelong learner as a result, but my mindset wasn't necessarily impacted by my mental health as such. I still had a very strong mindset. I was still able to learn. I was still able to do the things that not necessarily I was doing before, but I was able to do these things that you would assume that somebody with poor mental health wouldn't be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the assumptions, though, isn't it? That if you do have poor mental health, that you're not able to function, you're not able to make those decisions. And I think that's just to even share that lived experience will resonate with listeners as well.
Yeah. But of course, what I find interesting there is that was before you hit rock bottom. So even though the mindset was still there, the mental health was still going downhill with awareness or not. So it delayed the inevitable to a certain degree. It
did. And once I stopped learning, it wasn't a steep drop, but there was a decline. So I learned that at that level, I was learning for 2 years. In 2012, when that stopped, because I was learned out, I could see the decline now because I had time to see the decline. But a funny thing is that I declined. I hit rock bottom in 2015 twice, started to sort of recover and help myself. 2016, I took on my master's. So I'm not saying that we're always going to have a good mindset if we have poor mental health, or we're never going to have a good mindset if we have poor mental health. But they can be very different. You can have poor mental health and still be focused. I didn't really question my mental health until later on. But I knew I was struggling then. I was struggling through my days. It was really challenging to get through my days. So people are not always going to recognize that they have poor mental health or they're struggling emotionally because they're successful in other areas of life.
Mm. And then it's only when you actually get to that point and you're able to reflect backwards, like you did, you actually recognize, yes, I was really struggling. But in that moment, because you are actually functioning, you are achieving. And when you actually stop and you pause, that's when you actually realize.
So I suppose what we're trying to learn at this juncture then is how to better weave our mindset and this well-being element together. What tips or tactics can we use to make sure that we're not going off on these different tracks of mindset and emotional feelings here? How can we bring them closer together and to keep them in check on the daily? Tammy, we'll start with you.
I think it's going to be different for everyone. There's not going to be a one size that fits all, and what's worked for Hayley, for example, might not work for me or for you, Tom. I think it's about making sure that you're just going in a direction, and it's those little steps. It's not those monumental achievements until you actually find something that sparks your interest or distracts you, and it becomes that habit. And I imagine that's what learning was for you, Hayley. It became that habit. It became something that you just wanted to do. And the more you practiced it, the better you got at it. And it became, like I say, not an addiction. That's the wrong kind of word. But it helped you focus. It helped you get through the day. It helped you survive. And I think it's that light bulb moment that once you have it, then the momentum's there and you carry on.
Hayley.
I would say self-awareness, huge. It really is huge. I had a level of self-awareness, but I didn't understand anything. So you kind of have to have the self-awareness, you have to understand it, and then you have to recognize the emotional things. And I think we can do one. So I was aware that I was struggling. I wasn't aware that I was using learning to cope, but I was aware I was struggling. I didn't really have a friendship with my relationships. I did not want to know what my relationships were, my emotions were. I did not want to understand them. I didn't want to face them. I didn't want to deal with them. And I didn't understand the whole story. I could see bits and pieces. And I think this is what we do quite a lot, is we can see, I'm struggling. I'm doing okay though. So I don't really understand why am I struggling, what's making me struggle. I'm frightened to face my emotions because I've never done it before. So when you bring all that together, when you start to understand and face those emotions, that is life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. It can change so much for somebody, but yet we don't like to do it.
But then once you've overcome that hurdle, it could arguably have the biggest profound effect on your mindset and your mental and emotional well-being just by having that conversation. And taking us back to World Mental Health Day today, the theme is conversation. It's about getting it out of your body, getting it out of your mind, because we don't know what's going to happen from that point on. And it's one of the reasons why I've spent the majority of this first section focusing on it, because it's arguably, of the six that the other ones we're going to be looking at, this first pillar is arguably the biggest one from an individual point of view to overcome, because you need to get it out of your head in the first place.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're not very good at talking. Society doesn't allow us to talk. We don't encourage each other to talk about emotions or mental health, do we? You know, you can tell me if you've got a scrape on your arm, you can tell me if you've been ill in the night, you can tell me all those things. And that's, I would say, relatively recent as well. But we don't encourage somebody to, we might say, how are you feeling? But if somebody goes down the route of, oh my gosh, I'm feeling awful, I'm feeling really depressed, I'm really sad, people are like, oh, we do it, we respond with, I'm okay. Because we know we don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And there's actually a trend on TikTok. There's a trend on TikTok at the moment. We were joking about how down we are with the kids before we went live. There's a trend that says, when people ask me about how I'm feeling about X, I'll respond with, yeah, that's fine. It's a little bit of this, but it's okay. And then you scroll over again and it's like, but if you ask me on a deeper level, and there's a whole page of text there about how they're actually feeling. And it's a shame that it takes the two questions, the two hurdles, the fact that we don't feel like we can talk on a deeper level from the get-go, because everything is just veiled now. It's like, oh, how are you doing? Fine. And yet there's a whole lot of condensation in front of your face that we don't feel comfortable to talk about.
I wonder if you actually just on a day-to-day basis just noted how many times somebody would say, "Yeah, I'm fine."
I'd lose count.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean. So again, just touching that, the tip of the iceberg, and I'm not sure if it's just like a British thing. Do other nationalities do it, or is it just like embedded in our culture where we are just, yeah, it's fine, even though my arm's hanging off, or the roof of the house is just being blown off, I'm fine. It's like a default.
Yeah.
Mm,
You mentioned arm falling off, something that we can physically see. And of course, we are going to touch on physical because we said we're going to in this part one. Moving from that mental and emotional, by all means, please keep on giving us your thoughts. If you want to get in touch with us anonymously, by all means, email studio@purewestradio.com, or you can send us a message on the PWR app, knowing that there is going to be confidence in what you send to us. Of course, if you send them to us on social media, then we'll put it on the screen. So just be aware of that. But looking at the physical, and I was talking about how we can blend these things together. So mental and emotional, these pillars. Yes, a pillar is an upright column that very rarely interacts with something else. But we've already touched on the fact that sometimes the physical does overlap with the mental and emotional. And I'm going to start with a personal story about how much looking after physical health has aided me in different parts of my life, all the way back as far as school, and having the regularity of basketball practice on a Friday evening. And more recently, coming back and playing for my local football team, and just getting the chance to run around and to be part of it. Well, for me, running around, being part of a team sport, and having that kind of that bonding exercise of reflecting on the match over a packet of crisps or a ham sandwich or sausage and chips, and then being able to kind of tick that box. I feel nourished because I've used my body and I've had social interaction. I'll sleep well tonight. Hayley, give us a bit of more of an overview as to this physical column to make sure that we're all aligned on this pillar.
I think it's easy, and I think we do it a lot. We assume that if we're doing sport in particular, then we're doing okay. And I agree, it is really good for our mental health. It's really good for our well-being, but it's not a. I'm going to use the word cure, I know that's quite a maybe the wrong word to use. I'm not sure, but we need to really, in order to invest in ourselves physically, it is about nutrition. Yes, the exercise. Yes, the movement. Yes, the social side, particularly with teams. But if we were to do just sport and just movement, it wouldn't necessarily impact our physical and emotional. So we would still our mental and emotional. So we would still need to invest in that as well. But I think people are under the assumption that while I'm physical and doing something physical, my mental and my emotions all sorted. Now, I don't know if this is you, okay, but if you need to run, or you need to play football, or you need to go to the gym, or you need to do yoga 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week, in order to clear your brain or to give you space, it's the wrong reason for doing it.
Ooh.
Oh, explain more. I like that.
So I have this conversation a lot, okay?
Mhm.
People will come to me and they'll say, oh, I run 6 days a week and it just clears my mind and I'm fine. Okay, great. But what if you get injured?
Oh.
What's going to happen if you get injured and you can't do that sport or that exercise or that movement? All those things that you are keeping at bay by going to sport. Now, I'm not saying sport is bad, okay? But all those things you keep at bay for the hour you run or the hour and a half you play football or the 2 hours or whatever it is, it's just going to come rushing back. So I'm going to link it back to the mental and emotional. If you empty your emotional vessel and then you start to choose to run 5, 6, 7 times a week or play football 5, 6, 7 times a week, very different intention.
Yes, yeah, because you actually you've dealt with the problem. You know the symptoms. Yeah, so I get that, and you're doing it for the right reasons, because we're not overflowing. Our stress bucket isn't overflowing. We're very much in the logical part of the brain, making the logical decisions. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
I like that. Tammy, any other thoughts on physical as one of these pillars and how it links with the others? And a reminder of the others as well: spiritual, social, financial, and professional. They're what we're going to be moving on to next. Tammy, your thoughts on physical before we jump into these other pillars?
I agree with everything that Hayley said there. You know, if you are just doing it to clear your mind just for that hour or, you know, several hours, you're not actually, you're not delving deeper. We're not actually getting to the problem. The problem's still going to be there. And like you say, if there's an injury, that's just going to add more anxiety, more negative thinking into your emotional vessel, your stress bucket. It becomes that vicious circle. The other part I'd bring in to that physical side, where people think that they should be doing physical activity because it's good for mental health. If you start doing an activity because someone else is doing it and you don't like it, you're just going to add more emotional negative thinking, anxiety to your life. And the only way that I can describe it with like an adjacent story is years ago, I worked with a client who was insisting on going to the gym and going on the treadmill a couple of times a week because that's what her friends were doing, and would get there and would run and would just be obsessed about, the speed, the distance, the time, wouldn't enjoy it at all. Then one day, by chance, ended up going swimming with another friend and really enjoyed it. And the difference was really enjoying it. She was able to get fitter, toner, all the reasons that she wanted to do in the first place, she achieved. So again, if you are, doing something physical, it has to be for the right reasons as well. So it comes back to what Hayley said.
Yeah, I get a big sense of I should do this because all the images say that if you want to look and feel good about yourself, you need to go on the treadmill. But actually, physical health can take on all sorts of different guises depending on your hobbies and your interests. You might be a really good geocacher and walk for miles over the Brisellis, but 15 minutes on a treadmill might be the worst thing ever, which isn't aiding any of the other pillars because now you're resenting doing it. And the one thing that I thought of is that going back to that need element, Hayley, that you said, if you need to do this to get over something, it's like having a toolbox and only having one screwdriver. And then when that snaps, well, now you can't put the AAA batteries in the toy. And now you're stuck and you're lost. It's just one tool to help us become rounded individuals.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think as well, and this is why we're doing the 6 pillars, isn't it? If we can look after mental and emotional. So if you imagine when you're stressed, tense shoulders, maybe you're tense in your back, maybe your hips are aching, your knees might be aching, you're feeling really stiff, and you go for a run, you're at higher risk of injury. So if we can learn to balance just those 3 for the minute, so mental, emotional, and physical, if we can learn to balance those, then we reduce the risk of being stressed, of being anxious, of being injured, and we start to enjoy life more. Just by those 3 so far.
Yeah.
And when you enjoy life more, we're not putting anything to our stress bucket, our emotional vessel. We are actually keeping it empty, which keeps us in a really good mental and emotional well-being state. So yeah, it's all connected in that sense.
And that's only 2 of the pillars. We've got more to talk about. We're going to take a moment. We're going to play Whatever by Oasis, which is arguably one of my favorite Oasis songs. Free to be whatever I want, and I'll sing the blues if I like. And then we're going to come back and talk spiritual and social in the next part of Healthy Minds, Better Lives. Just a reminder, if you've got any questions or queries or something that you want us to cover, not necessarily tonight, but in the next show on the 14th of November, you can email your questions to studio@purewestradio.com. Confidence will be kept, or you can join the conversations on the videos. We're going to be in the comments. We're keeping an eye on all of them. The PWR app is another way that you can get in touch with us this evening. Hayley, to make sure that people come back, spiritual and social, give us the headline.
So spiritual is not what you think it is. And I think a lot of people get afraid of this, or they think, oh, woohoo kind of stuff. It's really not. It's really about nourishing the mind, the body, and the soul all together. How we're going to talk about different ways of doing that. And the social side, let's talk about I'm peopled out. Let's talk about that term, because that is a big term I hear everywhere. So that's going to be a really interesting topic.
It is. If you've got any thoughts on spiritual and nourishment, feeding the mind, body, and soul, or I'm peopled out, I'm constantly exhausted, I get really excited every time someone cancels a plan with me, maybe, then please do get in touch. The WhatsApp, by the way, if you want to send us a voice note, is 01437 764455. There's the PWR app, and there's email studio@purewestradio.com. And we are live on our socials. We'll be back on our socials after this. It's not long gone 10 to 10. 10 to the 10 to the 10, 10, 10. It's got to be done. Then we'll be right back after this. It's Oasis and Whatever.